Attention class. I'm just kidding. All right, greetings. So here we are, healing by design, constipation and diarrhea. We're going to combine those two together. Complete opposites, but I thought it'd be fun to talk about in the same class. So I will start with prayer. Lord, Father, we thank you so much for this time that we're gathered together. Give us more insight and wisdom on the human body, on your creation, all of creation, Lord, so that we would align with you. We would understand how to heal and repair our bodies from these issues using the things that you've given us. Give us wisdom, we pray in Jesus' name, amen. All right, so constipation and diarrhea. Intro to the class, couple things real quick is, the main reason I do these classes is to hopefully help people understand a little bit about how their body works, because we have been trained in our world in the last 100 years to have no clue how your body works, so that we just run to the doctor and we get a pill and everything's okay. And so we've just kind of forgotten how our body works. We've forgotten about herbal wisdom. We've forgotten the things that our grandparents and great-grandparents did to actually help get us well. And one thing I love to talk about is how God talks to us through our body. Everything's a sign, everything's a symptom, everything's an indicator. It's kind of like that warning light that comes on your car. Like when that warning light comes on, you go, man, I better go get this checked out. I better go to the mechanic in case something's wrong. I mean, that's there for a reason. And so when you get diarrhea, like, hey, your warning indicator's on. Or you get constipation, your warning indicator's on. But again, what we've been trained to do in our culture is go, oh, well, you have diarrhea, take, Imodium AD or whatever that stuff is. Or you have constipation, just take some Miralax, everything's okay. So you're ignoring the warning signals. You're ignoring how God designed us. We're ignoring how God designed us. That's a big deal, because what's happening is there's something off, there's an imbalance in the body, and we need to learn what it is and correct it so that our bodies are healthy, we're back in alignment with the way it's supposed to work. Because if we have constipation or we have diarrhea and we just take the drugs and we don't address the actual problem in our body, well, this is how we get chronic degenerative disease, because we don't ever look at the root issue, we don't ever deal with the root issue, and so we don't actually ever heal our bodies. So one of the main reasons I do these classes in general is to get people off of pharmaceutical drugs, get on to God's system, as I say. Now, this isn't a class like, when we talk about, I don't know, pain or depression, where people are on like thousands of medications. But with constipation and diarrhea, there's a few out there, and we don't like them. I'm not a fan of Miralax. I mean, it has propylene glycol or some ingredient that's in antifreeze, and yeah, that's going to probably flush your bowels. I mean, I don't know. There's just weird stuff in these pharmaceuticals that aren't good for us, and so we don't want to be put them in our body, because these are things that we're putting in our body that God did not intend to go into our bodies, and that's why they all have side effects. Well, they're not side effects; they're direct effects of taking something that's not good for us. So. Let's see, constipation, diarrhea. We'll just get right into it. I love iridology. I've learned about it more recently, and it's really neat to see right around the pupil of the eye the person's stomach and digestive zone, and to see what's going on there. And you can immediately look, by looking in some people's eyes, how poor or how good their digestion is and how good their stomach is. And if it's really, really bad, you might say, wow, have you had like diverticulitis or Crohn's or colitis or celiac or something like in your family history? Because you can see right around the pupil of the eye when it's a dark color, like it's dark brown or rust colored or orange or yellowish in a blue-eyed person. If a brown-eyed person, it's going to be brown. But in a blue-eyed person, if it's a dark color, there's major problems going on with their gut and their digestive tract. And you can see things in there called lacuna, which are genetic weaknesses. There's something in there called a honeycomb lacuna, which actually usually indicates parasites in the colon or intestinal tract. You can see leaky gut in the eye when people have these things called radial furrows, that are these deep grooves that come out of the digestive zone and they penetrate through the collarette or through the digestive zone into the body. So it's just amazing all the things you can see in the eye. You can immediately tell if somebody has low stomach acid or they have an over acid condition, where they have too much acidity and they drink things like coffee or even eat tomatoes or pineapple and they get flare-ups of acidity. And again, these are all things you can see immediately by looking in the eye. So I love that. A lot of the issues we're dealing with today are through our own crazy world and the foods we're eating, the drugs we're taking. So many people are waking up to the, I don't know, the matrix, the false reality, the blinders, whatever you want to call it, just this system we've created of marketing and advertising and corporate and doing all these man-made things that have caused these issues. But a lot of them are generational. And I see plenty of people whose gut and digestion and the constipation issues and diarrhea issues are literally from birth, right out of the womb. I mean, if you knew how many parents I talk to, their child's breastfeeding and they have diarrhea and it won't stop. Or constipation in, you know, infants and 1, 2, 3-year-old children, chronic constipation. So it's, you know, it's a big issue, and a lot of it is, you know, we're born with genetic weaknesses, but that doesn't mean we can't do something about it. It doesn't mean we can't overcome them. So constipation and diarrhea in general, as a general rule of thumb, it means that there is obviously an issue. There's obviously something going on. Something's clearly not working right. So again, we don't want to just take a pharmaceutical drug and just, you know, kind of band-aid it, but we want to actually find what's causing it so we can make sure there's not a deeper issue that we actually need to correct. So it's a sign of something damaged or gone wrong in the bowels for the most part. Not 100% of the time, but most of the time, diarrhea or constipation is an issue in the bowels itself. But I'm going to go through, and I'm going to start with constipation, and then I'm going to talk about diarrhea, and I'm going to talk about the main reasons people have these issues and what you can do about them. So with constipation, I'm going to mention, I'm just going to say the #1 reason. I had it down as 4, not that I had an order in it when I was doing it, but I'm going to say it's a constipating diet. So here's my joke that I've said a bazillion times. And I'm already telling you it's a joke, so you're probably not going to laugh. But have you seen that book? I don't know. I mean, I'm into this stuff, and I have a friend who's a colon hydrotherapist, but she's got this little book in her bathroom of this healing center that she has. And the name of the book says Everybody Poops. And it's got a picture of like an elephant and different animals pooping. So like, that's my joke. I mean, bears poop, dogs poop, you know, all animals and everything in creation excretes waste. And you take your dog for a walk, and a lot of times he poops. But you never see a constipated bear, or a monkey, or a deer, or a moose, or a rabbit, or I could go on, right? You don't see animals in nature constipated. Why? Because they live and they eat off of God's provision, right? They eat fruits and they eat vegetables and they eat leaves and they eat things of God that God told us to eat in Genesis 1:29 when He created the earth and gave us a garden. But we don't eat those things. We eat too much meat. We eat white flour, white sugar. Like, do you remember making paste or like paper mache glue in kindergarten? What did you use? White flour. Right? White flour. And we eat this stuff. We eat white flour all the time. And so, so meat is very constipating. Why? Because there's no fiber in it. There's no fiber in meat. Zilch. It's very heavy and hard on the digestive tract. Not a lot of people might have a quote-unquote iron stomach and be able to digest meat and pass it through, and that's okay. But a lot of people aren't doing well with meat today, and they're having to cut back or even have to eliminate it. And most people who are on a healing diet or a healing program will take meat out of their diet. And people who struggle with constipation notice that if they take meat out of their diet or they drastically cut it back, they start going to the bathroom on a more regular basis. So we have meat as an issue because no fiber. We have white bread, white flour, all the white stuff, baked goods and cookies and pastries and brownies and pasta and all the stuff that we're eating, especially if we're eating out, or we're eating fast food or eating at restaurants too much. And gluten is extremely constipating. I mean, I'll never forget this one gal that I was working with who struggled with constipation. And she made some changes and she was doing great. She was going once or twice every single day. It was a totally different world for her. And she went out to a restaurant one time and she had I don't know, bread or something at her meal, something kind of innocent, and it had gluten in it, and she didn't go for a week. She was constipated for a week because she had gluten one time. So this is how sensitive some people's bowels are. And again, it's a sign that the body's not digesting and processing things properly. So even people are going to have issues with, you know, because we want to do like the whole grain bread thing or the multi-grain bread, and yes, that's better, but it still has a lot of the same issues. It's still heavy, it's still pasty, it still can be constipating for people, especially if your bowels are already compromised. So you can try that. It's better than the white flour, white sugar, but most people aren't going to do well even with a healthier form of grains. So in general, it's good to get away from those things if you want to have better bowel movements. So that's the issues with a constipating diet. Another main issue is dehydration. So a lack of water. And so everything moves in the water, in the body through water. Nutrients go in, waste goes out, hormones are transmitted, minerals are transported. I mean, everything is happening through the flow of water. And if you think about your bowels from your mouth to the other end is 20-some feet, 25, 27, 29 feet, depending on the person. But it needs water to have everything flowing through. Because you need water in every cell of your body. You need water in your brain. You need water for your organs. You need water for your lungs. And so if you're not getting enough water, your colon will actually kind of dry up like a cactus in the desert, because the body will distribute water to all the cells and all the rest of the parts of the body that need water, and sometimes the colon will end up short. And if you don't have enough water, you can't make a bowel movement. You don't have enough liquids to push a bowel movement through. So think of what people are drinking. Think of coffee, soda, energy drinks, all these things that are kind of diuretics that cause water loss, that don't hydrate the body. And so just paint a picture of the standard American diet. I mean, I grew up eating this stuff. I grew up eating white flour, white sugar, tons of meat, drinking soda pop. You know, it's all the things you need to have constipation. This is why human beings are constipated and animals aren't. Because we make things in factories and with machines, and we manipulate what God's original design was for food. And in fact, a lot of the things that we're eating don't even have a resemblance of anything that's food. It's just things we're making in factories, like Peeps. Like, what is that? I don't know. That just popped in my head. You know that Easter sugar thing? I don't know. I mean, we just make really weird things. So anyway, so dehydration and lack of movement. I just kind of lumped those together. Again, I gave the example of you take your dog out for a walk, and usually when you take your dog for a walk, he goes poo, right? So when you get up and you go out for a walk, you have to go poo, right? So ideally, like, that's kind of how it would work if everything's kind of flowing. Movement and exercise stimulates peristalsis, stimulates the ability of the bowels to move. So that's like the basic formula. Like, it sounds so simple. And how many people could be better from their constipation if they would just decrease their meat intake? And I don't ever advocate like being a vegetarian or vegan. It's not about that. But we do eat too much, and it is not part of a healing diet, in my opinion, if you're trying to overcome any issue. And it can help you to decrease it or eliminate it for a while for constipation. So if we eliminate that, cut back on the white sugar, the white flour, the grains in general, getting gluten out of the diet, increase water and focusing on hydration and getting other beverages out that cause dehydration, right there you have a recipe that would probably solve the majority of people's constipation issues. Yet people suffer with this, and they go every 2 days, every 3 days. I've met people who go once a week. Doctors tell people it's normal. Over and over. I hear doctors tell, I mean, I have children, 1, 2, 3-year-old children, and the pediatrician said, well, if he's going 2, 3 times a week, that's normal. That's just your child. That's just, you know, some children are like that. I mean, where do we get these things? That, you know, and again, you can look at nature and look at animals and see that we're going every single day. There's no reason we shouldn't be going every single day. So that's dehydration and exercise and movement. Of course, on the topic of foods, like what foods help with healthy bowel movements? Of course, it's fruits and vegetables, foods that contain fiber. So it's the opposite of the standard American diet, which was bread, pasta, pizza, crackers, meat, heavy diets. Dairy, extremely constipating. Gosh, I can't believe I even missed that one. Dairy is extremely constipating for so many people. Have to get away from dairy. And the opposite of that is fruits and vegetables. So I'm pretty much a perfect example of that. I grew up with meat and potatoes, right? Meat and potatoes. We're farm country people. Lots of meat and potatoes, lots of white bread, lots of desserts, lots of meat. Fruits and vegetables, yeah, I liked fruit, but it wasn't a big part of my diet. And vegetables, I didn't want to touch it if it wasn't a green bean, corn, or a potato. That's it. I didn't like anything else. And, you know, we just ate what we ate. And so I struggled with a lot of these same issues. So high fiber content foods, fruits, vegetables, and think hydration. Think hydration. Would you juice a banana? You don't juice a banana. So that's not going to help you with constipation. That's going to help you with diarrhea, but that's not going to help you with constipation. So what's going to help you with constipation is high water content fruits and vegetables. So doing cucumbers and doing celery and doing radishes, doing lemons and citrus, doing watermelon, doing grapes, doing berries, doing all these high content, high fiber, water-rich foods are going to help with your bowel movements. Okay, I just got a picture and I'm like, that's kind of gross and I'm not going to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's just fun. I mean, we were talking about poop and stuff. You kind of have to laugh. So I was in Canada with North American Herb and Spice, and we were harvesting berries out of the natural environment because that's what they do. They actually harvest their own ingredients out of nature in places where it's okay and it's allowed, and they use it for their products. And I remember how we would find these patches of berries. And I remember this one time we found this patch of berries, and we're like, we're going to have to go back here tomorrow and get these berries because there's bear out there. Bears? Is it bear? There's bear? Bears? Is it like deer? Deers? There's bear out there, and the bear loves berries. Bears love berries. And so we got up the next morning and we went out there, and those berries were gone. Like the bear got to it first. And I'm telling you, you do not see constipated bears. And when you, like, I saw bear poop, and I'm not saying I fully in-depth examined it, but you could very clearly see the little seeds from the berries in the bear poop. Okay? So berries are good for your bowels. But so are all high water content, hydrating, natural fruits and vegetables. Getting away from the standard American diet, high water content foods. All right, so I think I've driven that point home. Another reason, I'll say the third reason, is a lack of healthy intestinal flora. We've all heard about probiotics. We've all probably gone to a health food store at some point or another and bought a probiotic supplement to help us with our bowels for some reason or the other. The cool thing about probiotics is they can help you with constipation, and they can also help you with diarrhea. Because the way the gut works, and I did a real kind of in-depth class on this in the Foundation of Creation series. I did a whole hour and a half on probiotics. But it's because our gut, our digestion, our body, the way God designed us, is like a compost bin. So you put fruits and vegetables out in your compost bin because they turn into what? Dirt, waste. They break down. They turn into soil. Who breaks them down?
Bugs.
Bugs. Perfect. Bugs break them down. And your body is made of trillions of bugs that you can't see. And so inside your body are these bacteria that are like composting your food as you eat it. It's supposed to be breaking it down like compost. And the reason it breaks it down is because there's good things in there that it needs to allow through your intestinal wall to feed and nourish your body. But there's things in there that you don't need that comes out as poop. So that's the job of these bacteria, is to break this stuff down. And if you have a lack of healthy intestinal bacteria, because you've taken lots of antibiotics, you've taken lots of birth control, you've eaten standard American diet of lots of white sugar, white flour, you've done the things that kill our good healthy bacteria in our guts, you can't compost, you can't break down your food into waste that can be eliminated through the body. It can't form a healthy stool, and stuff just sits there. And it kind of ferments and it comes back up. And then so you got constipation, so you're taking Miralax, and now you can't digest your food properly, And so now you got acid reflux, so now you're on Prevacid or Nexium or any of those other crazy things, and like your gut is just not working, and that's how you get nutrition into your body. Like, this is how God made us. And so you see you go down the slippery slope of being on these medications, yet never do anything to actually get your body to work the way God designed it. And this is going to lead to osteoporosis and nutrient deficiencies and mineral deficiencies and all kinds of problems because of what the drugs do to our body. So just taking probiotics is very beneficial to a lot of people. And so you can eat fermented foods. Sauerkraut, kimchi. One of my favorite ones is Bragg's apple cider vinegar. I would put Bragg's apple cider vinegar in the category of like a cure-all, like it helps with everything all the time. You have an issue, take some Bragg's apple cider vinegar. You don't know anything about health, and somebody comes to you and go, what would I do for this? Say, I would take some Bragg's apple cider vinegar, because you might help them. So, but it really is good to help with increasing stomach acid. It's actually a fermented food, so it actually helps with your healthy bacteria in your gut. It helps mineralize your body. You can gargle it and it'll knock out a sore throat. It kills bacteria and viruses and infections in your body, and you can go on down the list. It's good for everything. So that's a good little trick, is to do apple cider vinegar, because we're talking about fermented foods. Sauerkraut, kimchi. Now, I'm not huge into people doing dairy unless they're very healthy. So I do not encourage yogurt and kefir, even though all the marketing and all the advertising has convinced us that the whole planet has to eat yogurt every day or you can't be healthy. There are really good advertising campaigns out there for yogurt. But I believe it's a constipating food because it's dairy. And most people don't handle and tolerate dairy well, so you're going to be much better off with the apple cider vinegar, again, the sauerkraut, the kimchi, any kind of fermented vegetables. You can ferment anything. I mean, I love fermented pickles. You can eat fermented carrots. I mean, you can ferment anything. But you can take probiotics too, and a lot of people do that. And I don't have specifics. We'll save questions for the end if you don't mind. So probiotics, I like anything by Renew Life. They're the #1 selling probiotic company in the country. Garden of Life has great probiotic supplements. A lot of people have had a lot of benefits from a product called Prescript Assist, which is actually soil organisms. So I encourage people to grow their own foods in their garden, pull their own foods out of their garden, and not be hyper vigilant about getting every speck of dirt off of your fruit or vegetable. Okay, it's okay to eat a little dirt. You know, it's funny, somebody gave me a sign, I don't know if it's for my birthday or something. It's in the store here somewhere, where is it? But it says, "A little dirt never hurt." And it's a funny sign, because we've been planting a garden and our girls have been running around in the garden full of dirt, full of mud. I don't care. But people actually, because we're not connected to the earth, we're not connected to how God designed us, we're not using things of the earth and eating fresh fruits and vegetables out of the earth and getting a little bit of dirt, you're actually getting healthy bacteria, healthy soil organisms. You know, when you ferment sauerkraut, you just need a little sea salt and you just need your hands, and that stuff will ferment. Well, how does it ferment? Where are the healthy bacteria? They're in the cabbage. They're from the soil. They're from the earth. If you're a farmer or you're a gardener or a permaculturist, or study any kind of agriculture, you understand the importance of living organisms, because they're crucial to have healthy plants. So that's a good way to get probiotics, is through dirt. And so because we're not connected to the earth, because we're scared of dirt, because we wash every speck of everything off our fruits and vegetables, we have to now go into a health food store and spend $40, $50, $60 to take a supplement to get soil organisms that heal our gut that we could have just got from the earth. Isn't that kind of ironic? I just like to make that statement because I think it's kind of funny. But that's what we do. That's how disconnected we are from our Creator, is we actually have to go buy things that we should get in our natural environment. So I don't purposefully make mud pies for my children and have a dining party and ask them to eat them. But I am not worried about them playing in the dirt and getting muddy and getting dirty, and I'm not worried about every speck of dirt that's on our fruits and vegetables. So I just hope I made that clear. All right, so the next reason, let's just say the last reason, the major reason for constipation, is a lack of flow of bile. Bile. So what's bile? Bile is crucially important to develop bowel movements in the intestinal tract. because bile is what is released and produced by the liver. We know that it's stored in the gallbladder to be released to help us digest fats. And it's also used to digest starches and carbohydrates. So bile is a very important substance. And without it, you can't form a healthy bowel movement. And so a lot of people have blocked livers. They have liver congestion. They have gallbladder congestion, or they don't have a gallbladder because it's been removed because of some of these issues. And so if you don't have good bile flow, you can't have healthy bowel movements. And so to increase bile flow, you can work on your liver, you can work on your gallbladder, you can do like the liver gallbladder flushes. Those are very helpful. But I'm going to give you just a couple things that naturally increase bile flow. And one of the best things that increases bile flow is carrots and carrot juice and beets. So if you want to increase bile, think carrots and beets, carrots and beets. And you can juice them, and you can do a little bit of carrot juice, and you can add some other fun stuff to it to help. Some bitters, maybe some dandelion, you know. But beets and carrots are the best vegetables for bile flow. And beets is like the most amazing vegetable ever for so many things. It's probably one of my favorites, top of the list, because people take it for iron, anemia. It's really high in iron, so it helps with anemia and building blood. Anybody who has low hemoglobin or blood issues. It's a liver cleanser, it's a gallbladder cleanser, it's a kidney cleanser. I mean, it's just awesome. Beets are awesome. So those are a couple things to increase bile flow. You can take things that are emulsifiers. An emulsifier breaks down things and helps things like bind. If you think of like, if you think of lecithin, so you'll see lecithin in a lot of ingredients in foods because it helps emulsify. It helps things mix. That's the word I'm looking for. Emulsification helps things mix together that normally wouldn't mix together. So you need emulsifiers to break down foods to help have healthy bowel movements. So what helps emulsify is sunflower lecithin. A lot of lecithin comes from soy. I prefer the sunflower lecithin. So people take lecithin for what? High cholesterol. Why do you take it for high cholesterol? Because it breaks down fats. Why do you want to break down fats? Well, because that's the purpose of bile. And if you eat fats and you have bile, and you have an emulsifier like lecithin and you break it down, it's going to move through your intestinal tract. If you don't have bile, if you don't have emulsifiers, that fat you eat is not going to get processed and broken down. It's going to cause you liver pain. You might have to get your gallbladder removed. It's going to congest and back up your lymphatic system and eventually congest your whole system. This is a really important substance called bile. So lecithin, sunflower lecithin, carrot juice, beets, bitter herbs. Bitter herbs. So Swedish bitters, grape bitters, any kind of digestive bitter increases bile flow. These are things like gentian root, dandelion, burdock root. The bitterest of bitter is aloe vera. Aloe vera means very bitter. That's the translation of aloe vera. Vera, very bitter. And it's funny because my dad and I, when we had our first little Spirit of Health business, we had this aloe vera plant, and we knew how bitter it was. And so we broke off a little leaf, and we tasted it, and we regretted that. I could not get that taste out of my mouth the entire day. I mean, it's the bitterest of the bitter. And so that's going to be great for the intestinal tract. That's going to be great for helping to move the bowels. So, bitter herbs. Enzymes. Now, the enzymes I prefer specifically for these types of issues of lack of bile flow, pancreas issues, liver gallbladder issues. I use one called Ortho-Digestzyme by Orthomolecular because it has a blend of hydrochloric acid. So usually if you have constipation, you have low stomach acid. Usually when you're over acid, you have more diarrhea. Over acid, diarrhea. Under acid, low stomach acid, usually constipation. So this formula has a blend of hydrochloric acid. It has ox bile, bile. Again, bile. People have a deficiency of bile. So the bile helps emulsify fats, helps with bowel movements, helps break down your food. It has pancreatic enzymes like pancreatin, and it's got bromelain and some other digestive enzymes. So it's just a good blend of enzymes to help you break down fats, break down protein, emulsify fats, and to help you have healthy bowel movements. So those are the main things. Let's see, did I miss one? Oh, lemon. Lemon is an awesome emulsifier. Apple cider vinegar, a great emulsifier. So these help break down mucus and fat and just old congested matter and waste in your body. Lemon, apple cider vinegar, two great, great tools for that. So lemon in your water, lemon in your food, lemon in your salad dressing. People fast on lemon water. Like, that's a super fast way to clean up the body. So I'm going to throw in one last reason people have constipation, and that's a stuck ileocecal valve. That's weird, right? Ileocecal valve. So there's this little valve, and it's right here, and it's in your lower right quadrant. If you ever get pain right here, okay, you could have an ileocecal valve problem. This is a lot of time where parasites and different infections will harbor, because it's the area where your bowels transfer from your small intestines to your large intestine, to your colon. It's not just a wide open gateway, because that would be a problem. So there's a valve there that opens and closes, and it's called your ileocecal valve. And so it's to keep waste that moves into your colon from backing back up into your small intestines, which is going to cause a problem, because that stuff's already done with. It's supposed to be eliminated. It should go away. But if that valve gets stuck open or closed, people can have constipation or diarrhea. So if it gets stuck open, you're going to have diarrhea. If it gets stuck closed, you're going to have constipation. So a lot of chiropractors know about this. They must learn this in chiropractic school, because I didn't learn it. But chiropractors know this. And I have people like, oh, I had constipation for years, and my chiropractor said my ileocecal valve was stuck. And I'm like, you're what? And he did some little maneuver on me, and I'm all better. And so it's right here, and you can actually push it. You don't know exactly where it is, but you can actually push on it and move it. And you can move it up to open it up. This will open it up. You can make this motion right here to open your ileocecal. Everybody's trying to open their ileocecal valve right now. So this will open it up. And chiropractors do that, and you can learn to do it yourself. And it actually does get stuck. And the reason is because of pharmaceutical drugs, because of our poor diets, you know, the white flour, white sugar. Things just get bound up and stuck up in there. Infections get harbored up in there. And so again, you can open that ileocecal valve, and that's helped a lot of people with this constipation issue. All right, so that's it. I think I covered constipation. Products you can use, like instead of like Miralax or something like that to help get your bowels moving, is I have a product called On the Move Cleanse by Herbally Grounded that people just take 1 or 2 a day, take it with your evening meal, and it'll just help with normal bowel movements. The cool thing about herbs is they all have healthy benefits because they're plants God made. So they're actually going to have nutrition and have benefits outside of the function that you're hoping that it serves. Whereas pharmaceutical drugs do usually what they're supposed to do because of force, because they're chemical, because it's a biological reaction that's done forcefully based on a man-made creation. And it's not going to have side benefits, it's going to have side effects that are negative because they're not designed by God to go into the human body. So the other formulas I like to use are Dr. Morse, and he's got a stomach and bowel 2, 3, 4, and 5. Just to explain this to you real quick, because you don't want to be constipated. So until you work on your diet and some of this other stuff, you might have to take something to get you moving, and that's better than being constipated, because if you're constipated, it's autotoxicity. Waste is getting backed up into your system. It's got to go somewhere. And so that's never a good thing when you're getting toxic backup in your system. So you never want to be constipated. So Stomach and Bowel Formula 2 is for people who are going like once a day, and they'd maybe like to go 2 or 3 times a day. And then Formula 3 is for people going every other day, and you can maybe do some math from there. Stomach and Bowel 4 is for people who go every 2 to 3 days, and there's a Stomach and Bowel 5 for people who go like once a week. That's some like serious herbs right there. So got to keep your bowels moving. All right, let's see if I covered it. Oh, ironically, the timing of this is interesting. We're getting ready to release in the next day or 2 our summer detox challenge. We're encouraging and challenging people to cleanse for 3 straight months with us. Water fast only for 3. No, I'm just kidding. Totally joking. See, yeah, all right. I got a reaction out of you guys. That's awesome. So no, I'm going to give suggestions and recommendations to do a 3-month cleanse, and everybody can do it to their ability based on their life and what's going on. But we really are challenging people to cleanse these bodies, these holy temples, and just get free of sickness and disease, because God didn't design us to be full of sickness and disease. We're missing something. We're missing a lot of things, but nutrition's one of them. So we need to cleanse, and we're challenging people to that. And the first cleanse we're going to do, of course, is a colon cleanse, because that's where it all starts. And again, I said, God talks to us through our bodies. So if there's a problem with our colon, we need to pay attention, because that's like the root of it. Hippocrates said, for all patient complaints, look to the spine and look to the bowels, because the bowels is where it starts. It's nerve connections in the bowels that go to every single part of the human body. People are depressed, there could be issues with their bowels. People have fibromyalgia, they can have issues with their bowels. It doesn't matter what the disease is. It so starts in the bowels for so many people because of health issues. All right, so let's go into diarrhea. Why does the body have diarrhea? Well, the body's trying to get rid of something it doesn't like. I don't want you in here, so I'm going to spit you out. That's diarrhea. So for some people, you get a flu and you get diarrhea, right? You go to Mexico and you drink the water, like that's the joke, I shouldn't pick on Mexico. You go to another country and you encounter Kenya, there you go, see, she goes to Africa all the time. You go to some foreign countries that don't have clean water and you have bacterial problems and you get an infection and you have diarrhea. Why? Because the body says, I don't want this bacteria in my body and I'm going to cleanse you out. So diarrhea is always the sign of something in the body that the body doesn't want. And I just stress that because, again, you just take ammonium AD, or am I saying that right? What is that?
Imodium.
Imodium. You take Imodium, what have you done? What have you solved? Like your body's trying to spit something out because there's a problem, and you're taking Imodium. Like, so you got to look deeper into what's really going on with the body. And so that's so crucial. So the first thing I'm going to mention about diarrhea is a possibility that your bowels are damaged. Literally damaged. Tissue is literally damaged. Think of an ulcer. Think of diverticulitis. Pockets of infection in the bowels. And people eat certain foods and it just boop, passes right through them. Why? Because the bowels are damaged and it can't handle or tolerate certain foods scraping and rubbing against an already damaged tissue. Does that make sense? So this is why people have issues with nuts and seeds and sometimes high fiber foods, even lettuces and kale and any other kind of like what you'd call like insoluble fiber. Insoluble fiber. And there's a difference between soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber is bulking like psyllium, and it can be more gentle, and it can actually help people with their bowel movements. This is really important to understand for diarrhea. And then you have insoluble fiber, which are things that like you just can't process and it passes right through you. Okay, so like, you know, remember when you were a kid and you swallowed bubble gum? And you're like, man, I just hope that comes out in my poop. Because like, what else is your body going to do with bubble gum? Like, that's insoluble. Like, your body can't digest it, absorb it, use it for any purpose. And so that's just going to flush right through you. And so a lot of the ingredients in a lot of fibers have insoluble fibers. Now, those are fine to have some insoluble fibers in a healthy body to have healthy bowel movements. But if you're eating these nuts and seeds and some grains, and like I said, the lettuces, the kales, these can be irritating because of that insoluble fiber. And so what you need instead is things that help with bulk, help with bulking fiber, that heal and soothe and coat the intestinal tract. The way to heal a damaged gut is to, A, stop putting irritating things in your body. And people have to learn this, like the hard way, I call it, I guess, because you have diarrhea, like you're figuring out, oh my gosh, if I eat that, whoop, I'm in the bathroom. And remember I talked about dairy, how big of a dairy and how constipating dairy is? I know people who, if they eat dairy, boom, they're in the restroom 2 hours later. Why? Because their body's already congested and it can't handle and process the dairy, and the body's just spitting it back out. So So we want to take the pressure off of the intestinal tract so that it can heal, to stop the diarrhea. And one of the best ways you can do that is juicing or fasting or juice fasting or eating a diet of just like fruits and vegetables, but obviously not the irritating ones if you're irritated by these issues. Another thing a lot of people do when they have bowel issues, and what they do in Chinese medicine if people have bowel issues, is it's all cooked food. It's all gentle, easy to process, blended or cooked food. So lots of soups and steamed vegetables, basically pre-digested foods. So that's easy on your gut. So a class of herbs that are really good for healing a damaged gut. So whether it's an ulcer or diverticulitis or whatever you have, here's some things that can heal you. Now, you're not going to heal if you're eating lots of nuts and processed foods and white flour, but you take these herbs. Like, they might help, but we want people to like really get healed. And so that's the power of the herbs. If you couple it with taking the stress off your body, you're going to allow it to heal. The herbs are called mucilaginous herbs. Think mucousy, mucilaginous. So these are herbs that soothe and coat the intestinal tract. I had a gal who raises horses, and the horses, once in a while, their horses would get an ulcer. Now, I don't know why the horses got ulcers, but she would come and she'd buy a couple pounds of slippery elm. And she'd mix the slippery elm powder into their alfalfa, and they'd eat the slippery elm and never have another ulcer problem, at least for that season. It might come back in a year or whatever, but it would, for that moment, fix the ulcer problem, because these are herbs that soothe and coat and heal. So slippery elm is an excellent one. The other one I really like for this purpose is marshmallow root. I have a digestive tea, and all it is slippery elm, marshmallow root, flax seeds, and fennel. See, those are all very safe, very gentle herbs. These are good herbs for an over-acidic condition of the body. I mentioned the Dr. Morse formulas. He does have a stomach and bowel 1. Were you guys wondering? I'm sure you were like puzzled. He talked about 2 through 5, but what about 1? See, nobody cared. But stomach and bowel 1 is these types of mucilaginous herbs. So it's actually for diarrhea. It's a blend of herbs for diarrhea, for an over-acid condition of the stomach and the bowels. And so slippery elm, marshmallow root, aloe vera is another herb that fits this category. And for some people, the aloe does have a couple things that can be irritating for some people, but for most people, aloe vera is one of the best things for healing the intestinal tract. So those are a couple of mucilaginous herbs to help you out. And I'm going to tell you the other big thing that is like the magical, awesome answer for diarrhea and for damaged bowels, and it's clay, bentonite clay. We are the clay. He is the potter, right? So we are made out of clay, and clay is very healing. I love a book that I have called Our Earth, Our Cure by a French naturopath who healed almost everybody he worked with of their ailments using clay from the earth with different herbs depending on those herbs' healing properties. So clay will soothe and heal the intestinal tract. It'll heal up a leaky gut. It'll get rid of infections. It'll heal an ulcer. It'll heal diverticulitis pockets of damage in the intestinal wall. And the fast, like, you can drink it, so that's great because you got 20 feet of small intestines, but you can also put it in an enema. Or you can do an implant with clay and just put a couple ounces of clay right up into your bowels, and it'll heal infection in your bowels. So getting the clay right to the source, right to the area of a damage, is a very powerful way to heal from these issues. The formula I have given to people for years and years and years, for people who have diarrhea, is I have them take a glass of water, a tablespoon of liquid bentonite clay, a tablespoon of psyllium powder. Now, if you have super sensitive bowels and major issues with fiber, you can do just the psyllium seed powder, because we have the husk powder and the seed powder. And the seed powder has no fiber at all in it. And you just take a tablespoon of clay, a tablespoon of psyllium powder in a glass of water and drink it. And you can do that before bed. It's a great time to do it. And that'll take care of a lot of people's constipation issues. And if they need to do it twice a day, do it twice a day. I've had people have it really bad, have to do it 3 times a day. But most people, one time, it helps bulk up their stools enough to help with this issue. Now, the cool thing about it is you're taking clay. Clay could actually be dealing with the root of why you have the diarrhea. It could be killing an infection in the body. It could be healing diverticulitis or an ulcer in the body. And so this is the power of the things God created, is they actually heal the body while simultaneously helping us with our immediate issue. Pharmaceutical drugs do not and never will serve that purpose. All right, so let's see. Bowels irritating damage, mucilaginous herbs, clay. Okay, so another big reason why people have diarrhea is infection. You have infection. Again, think of, you get a flu virus. You go to Kenya. I'll just use Kenya. We go to Kenya and we drink some water that, you know, our bodies aren't used to. Maybe the natives people there are, maybe not, but ours definitely isn't. And so our bodies are going to react right away. Our immune system has to kick it into gear. But the body's going to flush out that bacteria. So infections. So a lot of people have chronic reoccurring diarrhea because they have low-grade systemic infections in their body. They have candida overgrowth, fungus, yeast, mold issues in their bodies. And their body's constantly having diarrhea to deal with these issues. Parasites can cause constipation and or diarrhea. Okay, I've seen people with chronic constipation do a parasite cleanse and everything immediately unlocks. Because they had a parasite. Now I know this is gross, but I just have to give you the reality of it. Because they had a parasite nest in their colon. And so you get the parasite nest out and things open up and the body starts to work again. It's gross, but it's a reality. And if you've ever been in third world countries, they're very aware of the reality of parasites. We're not in here. We ignore it. And thousands and thousands of people have issues with it. And our medical community is like, whoop, I know nothing. So you can also do, so you can do parasite cleanses, but you can also do like microbial cleanses. Like we have a product called Fungal Forte by Original Medicine, which is a Garden of Life practitioner line. Fungal Forte, I've used that a lot. Dr. Morse has a Parasite M, think microbial. It's a really good formula I use for fungus, yeast, mold, bacteria. People can just take it as a preventative. It's got olive leaf and golden seal and pau d'arco and all those really good antimicrobial herbs. That'd be a safe thing to take traveling. I mean, what a great way to help yourself traveling to take, you know, you mentioned charcoal before class, take clay. Mike took some clay to Mexico with him, and he was the weird health guy, and they kind of make fun of him about the health thing, and he's always eating healthy. And then they all got sick down there in Mexico, and who was the hero? The guy who had the bottle of clay, and he got everybody better by giving them the clay. I mean, that's pretty cool. So clay, charcoal, probiotics when you travel, parasite herbs when you travel. Dr. Hulda Clark has a product called Parazap Cleanse. It's just for that. It's to take 1 or 2 every day while you're traveling to keep your body free of parasites. Because you never know what you might be encounter when it's overseas and it's a new environment, especially if it's an unclean environment. But it's good to take anyway. You got dogs, you got cats or dogs, take some parasite herbs. I mean, it's prevalent in our society today. All right, so infection, that's another reason for diarrhea. Liver congestion. Now I mentioned bile with constipation, but I'm also mentioning it with diarrhea because people lose their gallbladders and they have this constant flow of bile into their system, and the too much bile is causing diarrhea. And a lot of people, if they have congested liver gallbladder issues, the congestion, the body gets backed up with constipation. It gets backed up to the point where it purges, and then you get diarrhea. And there's so many people I run into too that back and forth, constipation, diarrhea, buildup of toxicity, purging of the body. And it's this issue of bile. And so liver insufficiency, liver congestion can lead to diarrhea, and poor pancreas function. So we've hit on digestion a little bit. We talked about the probiotics, the good bacteria that have to break down our food. But we have the pancreas that helps us with digestion by producing pancreatic enzymes. Pancreolipase. I lost the other pancreatic enzymes. There's other pancreatic enzymes that the body produces to help us digest and break down food. And if you're not if your pancreas is malfunctioning, and let's say you have pancreatitis, you've had diabetes issues, a lot of times people have diarrhea because the pancreas doesn't secrete the enzymes that it needs, and everything just passes right through the system. So that's another sign of a problem you could have in your body with diarrhea, is have your pancreas checked. Make sure there's not major issues with your pancreas. The last one I'm going to mention for diarrhea is weak nerve energy. Weakened nerve energy. And I can actually see this really clearly in people's eyes. And the collarette, which is this squiggly line, which actually represents their autonomic nervous system around their eye, which is around their digestive zone. It's sometimes you can't even see it. It's completely absent in people, which means they have a very, very weak and sensitive nervous system. Everything makes them jumpy. It's hard to be out in loud places, loud noises, loud TV. They're like, why do I get irritated so easily with every little thing? And they're like mad about it. Like, I don't want to get irritated with things, but everything just irritates me. Somebody's chewing too loud and it freaks you out or whatever. So you can have really sensitive nervous system. And if you have a really sensitive nervous system and weak nerve energy, you can have diarrhea. You can have an excess of nervous energy that causes diarrhea. So you want to be calm. You want to be relaxed. I mean, we've all heard that stress, like what's one of the default things your doctor says? Like if something's going on with you and he's like really doesn't have any idea what's really wrong with you, he's like, oh, it could be stress. You might have stress, right? That's like the default thing, right? So, but it's true. But this is why. Like we never learn why. So if we have stress and we have weak nerve energy, then our body's ramped up and amped up all the time. Digestion doesn't work. And so that can be another reason people have diarrhea. So you want to calm and relax the nervous system. Take some magnesium. Don't do too much because it causes diarrhea. But if you do magnesium, it opens up and dilates the blood vessels, relaxes the muscles. Holy basil is our favorite herb on the planet for that. Holy basil, you've heard me talk about in a video 1,000 times. But it calms and relaxes the nervous system. The new to me, the CBD oil out of hemp, the most amazing thing for calming and relaxing the nervous system. And when your nervous system's calm and relaxed, you can be in a state of healing. And that's very important. So that's all the constipation. That's all the diarrhea. I hope I hit it all. So again, my heart, people, get off of the pharmaceutical drugs. There's not a ton related to constipation and diarrhea. But I think the take home for me is that God talks to us through our body. There's an issue with our bowels, our intestines. There's damage, there's an infection, there's a liver issue, there's a bile flow problem. There's something going on, and God loves us. He wants us to be healthy. He wants us to walk with Him and talk with Him till we're 150. Not ignore the warning signs. Do what we want, eat what we want. Ignore all the warning signs and get a sickness or a disease. That is totally contrary to how God designed us to live on this earth. So, amen. I think that's it. Question? Did you want to go first? I know you had a question.
Well, I was wondering, what is it when you have a urine test and there's too many white blood cells in the urine?
Well, I don't think it's related to the constipation diarrhea issue. But if you have too many white blood cells, would you say white blood cells in your urine? Okay, so the job, so I'll explain this kind of briefly, not going to get too in depth with it, but the job of your kidneys is to eliminate acid waste out of your body. The job of your lymphatic system is to eliminate acid waste out of your body through your kidneys. Okay, so if your body has such systemic infection in it, and it's so overloaded that it can't fight the way it normally is supposed to, and your body's compromised, then the body's using the kidneys as a way to eliminate infection. So some people get like blood in their urine, people find protein in their urine, people find white blood cell count in their urine. Anything that's supposed to be in the blood and is not staying in the blood and is coming out through the urine means your body is severely compromised. I can just make it that simple. because this is something the body should normally handle through the process of cleaning blood, as it goes into the lymph, as it's eliminated through the kidneys, and all of that waste is removed, without it, through the normal processes. And so it's just a sign that your body's compromised. But yes?
What about iced tea? I have a daughter in Texas that drinks iced tea all day long, not sweetened.
Yeah.
But does that dehydrate her?
What is iced tea? I don't even know what iced tea is. I mean, is that weird for me not to know what iced tea is?
It's just tea. It's just tea.
But what's the tea? But it's made by like Lipton and these big companies. Like, is it really? It's not green tea.
No, it's not green tea.
If it's not green tea, then what is it?
It's black tea.
Is it black tea?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the issue with tea in general, like I think green tea is great and yerba mate, and it all has a little natural caffeine, and it's not a big deal if you're doing it in balance. And actually, a little caffeine actually helps with people's bowel movements who have constipation. But I just think if you're overdoing it, you're not. Let's just say I'm sure it's heavily processed, has probably decent amount of caffeine in it, and so it's not hydrating. I mean, that would probably be the main thing for me, is that it's not hydrating.
That's why I was concerned. Like coffee is dehydrating.
Right.
So is tea the same way?
Yep, tea would be dehydrating as well.
Because she has a real problem with constipation.
Okay. Yeah, so that would be dehydrating. So that'd be a good thing to switch around. Yep, nothing better for hydration than just plain water. Yes?
I haven't heard you say anything about blackstrap molasses either. Is that pretty good?
Blackstrap molasses. In general? Yeah, I guess it's okay. I just stay away from sugars, extra sugars that we don't need.
It makes the apple cider taste a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you need to add a little sweetener to something to help it get down, then that's okay. But yeah, blackstrap molasses, even honey, even agave, all those natural sweeteners, they're too heavy, they're too concentrated. The only reason you even have the option to buy them today is because we have grocery stores. If you'd have lived any other time in history for 7,000 years, you couldn't go to the store and buy blackstrap molasses. So I'm just big on, just getting away from all those extras, especially the concentrated forms of them. Because again, if you're trying to heal, like if you're in great health and you're exercising every day and you don't have any health issues, and these things aren't an issue. The problem is most people today have health issues. Most people are compromised and they're still trying to find a way to eat their sugar or eat their bread or eat their grains or eat their sweets or eat their cookies, and they're eating gluten-free and they're doing all this stuff because of they're tied to the food. I'm sorry, I just have to say it that way. Like, we have to break away from that and actually get into a healing diet. And so I think that's the critical thing to understand. And so I'm not saying blackstrap molasses is like bad for you. I mean, there's all kinds of great things you can read about it. It just depends on you, where you're at, and what your goals are. Because if your goals are to cleanse and heal your body, I wouldn't put that as part of my program. All right, any other questions related to constipation or diarrhea?
You mentioned bile flow a little bit.
Yes.
I was just wondering, I know that you can sort of perhaps diagnose, in inverted commas, bile flow with taking the capsules and working out, if you get that burning sensation.
Oh, yes.
Is there another way to diagnose, like does it show in your iridology, like bile flow? How do you know if you're producing bile or not?
You wouldn't know for sure. I mean, just if you can see liver, gallbladder, compromised, weaknesses. Really, the best way to know is just to take the enzymes. She was asking about, you take the enzymes and you can increase them until you feel like uncomfortable or a slight burning sensation. It means you have more stomach acid than you need, or more bile than you need if it actually triggers like diarrhea or something. So I don't know any other way to figure out how much you need. I don't know if there's any way to actually know that besides just trying it. Most people, 1 a day helps them tremendously. And so, but I do have people that do 2, with each. I said 1 a day, 1 per meal. But I do know a lot of people who do 2 per meal because they know they're compromised and they notice a huge difference if they do more. That's not the ideal long term.